I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time.
All right, obviously that is an answer for a lot of you. Now can you please?
I refer...
All right, now can you please?
I refer direct...
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute here. Wait a minute. If you don't like what's going on here, please leave now. No, leave. No, leave now, because there are others who do want to hear what's going on in this room. Will you please take your seats? I will come back to you as we roll back across to the center section.
Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency. I was personally exposed to CIA operations and recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. I have been trying to get this out for 18 years, and I have the evidence. My question for you is very specific, sir. If in the course of the IG's investigations and Fred Hitz's work, you come across evidence of severely criminal activity,
let him speak
and it's classified, will you use that classification to hide the criminal activity, or will you tell the American people the truth?
All right, you want to hear the response first from Congressman Julian Dixon and then from the director. Wait a minute. From your, I'm sorry, sir. I will allow the director to speak first and then Congressman Julian Dixon.
If you have information about CIA illegal activity in drugs, you should immediately bring that information to wherever you want, but let me suggest 3 places. The Los Angeles Police Department,
please.
If you have information about CIA illegal activity in drugs, you should immediately bring that information to wherever you want, but let me suggest 3 places. The Los Angeles Police Department,
I'm sorry, others want to hear this answer. I am sorry, others want to hear this answer.
It is your choice, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Inspector General, or office of one of your Congress persons from this.
18 years ago, sir, and I got shot at for it.
Wait a minute, sir. Wait a minute, sir.
And?
Sir, you have not gotten the mic yet. You are not. But wait a minute, then don't speak out of turn.
Let me say something else. If this information turns up wrongdoing, we will bring the people to justice and make them accountable.
All right, Congressman Dixon.
Thank you, sir, for coming.
Wait a minute here. I thought you did not want to be here, but now that you are here, please let us hear and listen. Thank you very much.
Sir, I want to thank you for coming. You were at the last meeting. The staff probably had the spelling of your name wrong, but we would like to talk to you. We have been looking for a couple of days for you. And we want to make sure that you contact the committee, because obviously you have some valuable information. If you want to give it to me privately, if you want to hand it to that aide where I can contact you this evening, please do it. Don't let us get away without getting a contact from you.
Thank you, sir.
Pass it up to him now, so everyone can see that I got it. That would be fine.
Thank you, sir. And for the record, my...
Please keep the noise down so that we can hear and we can get answers.
For the record, my name is Mike Ruppert, R-U-P-P-E-R-T. I did bring this information out 18 years ago, and I got shot at and forced out of LAPD because of it. I've been on the record for 18 years nonstop, and I'll be happy to give you, Congressman, anything that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ruppert.
Thank you very much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. I bought your book. You gave me a copy of it today, but I already have it because I bought it about 5 years ago, which is Crossing the Rubicon. That's when it came out, right? When did that come out?
It came out in August of 04.
When I first became aware of you was that speech that you gave. I don't know where you were, but it's a speech that you gave where you were talking in front of some judge in some sort of a courtroom somewhere, and you were explaining how you were an LA Police Department officer and you caught the CIA selling drugs, and you were just fucking saying it. You were just standing in front of this judge. What was that instance? Who was that?
That was, you're a fighter, and you know about war and battle and stuff. This was one of those circumstances. One of my favorite axioms about combat, about fighting somebody, was given to me by a Chief Warrant Officer 4 from Army Criminal Intelligence Division. Don't shoot unless you get a headshot. And I had the headshot that day on the Director of Central Intelligence, and it's kind of like something that you can spend your whole life in a fight or combat waiting for everything to line up, but you know when it lines up, and it's like that's what happened. So, 18 years I'd been trying to make somebody pay attention to the fact that CIA had been bringing drugs into the United States, and I had lost a career because I blew a whistle on that, and I'd been 18 years, and I finally got a chance to nail a guy.
That seems so crazy that you're the first guy to come out with that. I mean, I know I've heard stories before, and I know I knew about the Mena, Arkansas situation with what was that gentleman's name?
Clinton?
Yeah, Clinton. Clinton.
Terry Reid.
And the other dude, the dude that got caught, that
Barry
died.
Seal.
Barry Seal, that's the guy. He's the guy who died with George Bush's phone number in his pocket. You know, I mean, that's a fascinating story. There's a guy who says that he was bringing in drugs for the CIA for a long time, right, from South America, and they would have a spot where they would drop it off, and apparently 2 kids saw it, and these 2 kids, they killed these 2 kids, and then they said it was suicide.
That was the train track deaths.
Yeah, the train track deaths.
Yeah.
So the parents forced some sort of an autopsy, and the autopsy found out that these kids had been murdered, and then it spirals into this thing unwinding. But who would have ever believed before there was something like that? I mean, that's a big that was a really big case.
Well, I came out with it publicly after I resigned from LAPD in November '78. And I resigned because Chief Gates was going to let me get killed, and he wouldn't give me backup, and and it was a really sick scenario. I had perfect rating reports and all this stuff. So then I resigned, and then I went to the LA Times. So my clock on being public started in '79. But here's what's interesting about all that stuff. You go back to CIA's been dealing drugs ever since before there was a CIA. Long story. It's an economic issue more than it is anything else.
Is it just something where they can't pass up? It's just too much money? It's going out there anywhere?
Yes.
And it helps them do things that they don't have to get approved, right?
Well, that's only part of it. You have to remember that Bill Casey, Ronald Reagan's CIA director, was a stockbroker. The CIA was created by the Dulles brothers, John Foster and Alan Dulles, who were partners in Sullivan Cromwell. They founded the CIA. Alan Dulles is, so the CIA and Wall Street have always been one and the same thing. And the deal with drug money, which when I wrote a lot of the stuff that's in Rubicon, is that you can move it with profits to earning ratios off books in a crooked economic paradigm. And with price to earnings, if you launder $1 million worth of drug money onto a corporation, let's say GE, who has a price to earnings of 30 to 1, you've just created $30 million in stock value. There's a huge multiplier. And the CIA, this is all part of the same corrupt economic paradigm, which is destroying us now. That's the case that I started on then, trying to find out what the fuck is going on around here.
How did you find out? And did other people know and just keep their mouth shut? Like, how did you know? How was there like ultimate proof to you?
Well, when I saw it with my eyeballs was proof. But see, how I got into it's a completely different deal. I have a special birth. My mother was a senior cryptanalyst for the Army Security Agency in World War II. Her work product went to Secretary of State, Secretary of War, and President Roosevelt. She worked on Japanese codes, the Russian codes. Okay, my father was a decorated Air Force hero, veteran. He was in B-17s, World War II, then he came on all this stuff. And both were connected with CIA. So I came from a CIA family. So, I mean, I used to come home from grade school and say, Mom, what's for dinner? And she'd say, I can't tell you. Gotcha. So anyway, so I was marked, and plus I was gifted. You know, I was a good, smart, guy. And so I was being groomed because the CIA has people in police departments all over the country, and they have for years. Law or no law, that's what they do. So I was being groomed because the CIA has people in police departments all over the country, and they have for years. Law or no law, that's what they do. So I was being recruited into that because I already had a Q clearance, which I had had just from living with my parents. And so that kind of marked me as somebody who was like on the inside, but I wasn't really. I wasn't going to go along with drugs when that's when I saw what it was. I wouldn't do it.
And everybody else is just going along with it? Or do they just turn a blind eye? How does it go? How does it work?
Well, what happens is, and I'm sure you understand this, is that we live in a world that's full of sellouts. We're surrounded by sellouts. We're surrounded by, we live in a world that's full of sellouts. We're surrounded by sellouts. We're surrounded by, and this came up really recently with Occupy and my friend Shamar Thomas and all of the stuff that we got together involved with that. It's about honor, and some people just aren't capable of selling out, I guess, and I guess I'm one of those. But most people resign themselves, and not everybody knows this. Like, not every LAPD cop knows this happens. It's compartmentalized, but. There's a lot of people out there in law enforcement, and I think we've seen this with the Occupy movement and the way veterans and some cops have responded to. There's a lot of people inside the system who are really honest, and they're just waiting for somebody else to show them how to do it.
Wow, what a terrifying situation. So you're the first guy to step up, and you step up and step out and say that in front of all these people on television. What happens then?
Yeah, I'm not so sure I was the first to step up. I'm the
like
first.
That?
Well, I was the first to do it and stay alive, and the first to do it and find a way to get shit like this done.
Do you think it's almost safer to come out with something like that than it is to be the guy who hasn't said anything and they could silence?
Yeah, I mean, being transparent publicly is your absolute best defense, and that's something I've done for 35 years now.
Jesus, though. But you got to a point at one point where you were worried about your own life. Like, you left the country for a while, right?
Many times. I've never not really been.
Are you like one of those dudes like wakes up and hears something and just fucking packs your bags and gets on a plane?
No.
I mean, how many times did you do it?
No. You make peace with it. You have to learn how to live with it. One of my training officers at LAPD had been a Marine with 5th Marines in the Citadel at Way, and he said you can get used to anything, and that was a real teacher. So it's not that you can't live on adrenaline forever, So you make peace, and then, but being public is always the best safety.
Why were you worried about your life? What was it specifically?
Well, what I was exposing. Now you have to bear in mind that when I was at LAPD and I resigned, I had pulled like the tail of something out of a hole. I didn't know what was attached to the rest of. It's like I'm just gonna pull on this one worm, and it's the can of worms. So, but clearly what I had. The CIA was directly involved in bringing heroin into this country illegally. of using police officers in their pay or control with the clearances to protect those drug shipments, and they were laundering the drug money. And that it had to have been known at a White House level. And that was in 1978.
That's incredible.